So you wanted to see the alpha channel really in action. So I chose a project that has translucency, right, like through the glass that I use, and it has like structural complexity. So we don't have to Photoshop out all the little holes throughout this thing to get the sky to look right. So what I would need to do in this rendering is basically, I need to go into the render settings. I need to check on alpha. And what you need to make sure of is that this opaque setting is not checked on. Okay, if you set it to opaque, all the glass is just going to show up white. So let's go to render. We'll do a quick render of this thing. I don't even know what environment settings I have on, actually. I should have checked that. Hopefully it's physical sky. Nope, it's constant dome. Well, maybe that'll be all right. Oh, this is on draft and everything too. Hang on, I'm gonna redo this. Let's change it to production. Intensity is fine. Let's go to physical sky. I'll make this a little higher res, something like that. Okay. All right, there we go. And don't worry about resolution so much. I'm going to go through resolution again today, right after this. So let's let this run for a few. So just a quick note on what you're seeing here as it's rendering. Bear in mind that the build, like all of the buildings and stuff, are being cropped out similarly to the way you saw it previously, except the glass is still showing the physical sky behind it. Okay, so there are some positives to that. There are also some negatives to that. But I do want to flip over real quick to the alpha channel so that you can see what is different. So the difference between the black sky in the background and the gray glass that you see here in this layer is that when you switch, or when you swap that in as your alpha mask, that's going to show up as a translucency. Okay, so that part is very, very important. Does that make sense? So I'm going to let this get a little bit more crisp before I bring it into Photoshop and show you. Yeah, so just give it another minute or so. Okay, so at this sampling level, I'm going to stop it because that looks pretty close to binary. So let's go through that same save process. So I'm going to switch it over to 32 bits. I'm going to save all channels, and I'm going to save this one as Tower Sky, I guess, whatever you guys want to call it, doesn't matter. Hit OK. I think I left that one as 8-bit, but that's okay. So let's go find that file. It did not seem to save. Did I save it in the wrong spot? Oh, I did. I saved it in the wrong spot. 16-bit. Oh, I also, wait. Okay, anyway. So 16-bit, save all channels. I'm going to go up here to my dump file folder. Dump. I'm going to call this one Tower Sky. And I'm selecting PNG. Okay. Now, with Photoshop here and this open, there we go. Tower Sky PNG and Tower Sky Alpha. So I open up Tower Sky. That same process that I was going through before, I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. So for those of you who weren't quite clear on the process, now's a good time to pay attention because I'm going to do it all again. So the file is in. I'm going to duplicate that layer. I like to keep my base layer there, so I'll turn that off though. And I'm going to click on the layer mask button at the bottom, so that creates my alpha mask right there. I do need to bring in my alpha as a separate layer first, so I'm going to drag that one on top. And I can use my selection tool to select everything. So I Control-C to copy that, and then I Alt-click on the layer mask in order to, put that mask on by Control-V. So now I can click back into the image itself, turn off the layer, and that's what I have. Quick, right? Super fast.
You're doing it, saying it way too quick. I lost you at the Control-V.
Control V. That's just
Four.
okay.
Control V.
Well, let's go back and do it all again. Okay. So you got to this point, right, where you had the background dropped in and you made a duplicate. So we just want to make sure we bring in our alpha map and put it on top and hit enter. I just dragged it in. Okay. Then you can select that alpha map and Control C to copy it. Then on the layer that you want to mask off, right, that would be this one, the duplicate of the original layer. You create your layer mask by clicking on the button down the bottom, square with the circle in it. Then Alt-click. Maybe that's what you guys are getting hung up on, is that one, because I do that one pretty quick every time. So it's Alt-click, and that lets you see the alpha mask and edit it. Yeah.
I can't copy my alpha mask for some reason.
Did you pull a box across it? Like that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, you got to pull a box across it. And then Control C to copy it. Okay. So Alt-click on the alpha mask and Control V, and that's it. And that puts the alpha mask on it. So when you click back off onto the main layer and you turn that alpha mask layer off, that's what you get is this. Okay. Now, what do you guys see that's different about this versus my? What's that? I mean, you're seeing all this weird pixelization across the glazing, but that's just because I didn't extrude them the right direction. I extruded them up instead of out. Don't worry about it. But what I'm getting at is that the glazing is actually translucent. You might not be able to see it from back there or on the projection screen, but this is actually bluish. Okay, so when I grab, let's grab a sky background. Let's pick a good one that has some color in it. Hang on. Trying to find one with some color in it that's kind of high res. There we go. That's public domain. So let's copy this one, go in this model, Control V. Okay, so here's a good sidebar. If you get a really, really big image here and you want to modify it, right? You right click and go to free transform, so it selects the whole thing. And the fastest way to modify it is to go up here to your W and H, and you can check that little button that's going to link the two proportionally to each other, and you can just change the scale. So if I switch it down to like 40%, that's going to make it a little bit smaller. So 40% was enough to just get it in the frame. Then I can sort of place it like this. So I'm going to hit enter. Whoops, it's too small. Like that. Just make sure all you have to do with this layer is just pull it behind the alpha mask, like that. Okay? So that's the key, really, is now you can actually see through my building. You guys get that? And you can see through it with a little bit of a tint in the windows.
Hell yeah.
Like that. See how there's a little bit of a tint to it?
Oh, the black is the sun piece.
Yeah, the black is the core. So what questions do you have? Obviously, the higher the resolution you render, the crisper these edges are going to be and the more real it's going to feel. And I put real in quotes, I think, because we're not really shooting for real. Okay. But it is going to feel like it's closer to an actual piece of photography rather than rendering. Okay, if there are no questions, I'm going to close this video. Okay.